Welcome to the Intern Whisperer. Our show is all about the future of work. And you know, my name is Isabella Johnston. I'm the host of the Intern Whisperer, but my podcast is also brought to you by Employers for Change. That's my startup, and we help hiring teams reduce employer bias and increase diversity based on head and heart smart competencies. So my guest today is Shannon Latimer, and I have known her for quite a while. We're not going to call out years, Shannon, just so you know. She's a senior administrator in the Career and Technical Education Department with Orange County Public Schools in Orlando, Florida. She is an accomplished educational leader with more than 10 years of experience cultivating relationships on a national, regional, and local level, building community engagement and strengthening partnership development with communities, and improving career-related school-based programs. I think she's a bit of a superhero because I've seen her in action. And her superpowers include analytical problem solver, experienced communicator, strategic thinker with strong organizational skills that are focused on building collaborative relationships. So welcome to the show. And I don't know, this wasn't a question for you, but if you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'd be Batman.
Batman, not Batgirl.
Batman, not be Batman. Well, Bat person.
Bat person, yeah. There you go. Bat person. Yep. Okay, so tell us about yourself using only 5 words. And you had told me creative was your first one. Why creative?
Oh my, I love to design. I am a graphic artist. And since the 6th grade, I have enjoyed designing pages. First, it started with yearbook. I enjoy coloring, putting colors together. So I look at myself as being quite creative, not only on the space of when it comes to graphic design, but also being innovative, creative in the events and opportunities that I bring to students.
That is very, very, and you know, kids love to draw. I can't think of any kid that doesn't really love to draw. They doodle. That's drawing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Your second one was loyal. Now, why loyal? I love it when people pick this word because I think it's significant.
Well, I'm ride or die. I have friends that I've had for numerous years. I enjoy sticking with the company and with people and seeing them grow. So I consider myself a very loyal person.
And that's rare, right? People bounce around from employer to employer. I don't think that's wise anymore. I don't think that's a luxury you should do because I think that it's harder to get jobs.
I agree. I also think that sometimes you have to sit back and think about, why am I leaving? Why am I bouncing around? What growth potentials are there? What growth potentials have you not voiced? Because I think a lot of people do not voice their potential, or sometimes you have to create opportunities for yourselves. And many times that is just voicing, I'm interested in this. I would like to do this. I want to learn more about this. So
career goals. Yep. Precise. Why precise?
I'm a stickler to detail.
I think that's a good thing.
Yes, I hope so. But it does help me stay organized. But also, again, when it comes to designing, you know, everything has to be lined up. Everything has a place.
Yeah. So, I learned something from working with graphic design students, and, you know, they're snapping the grid, making sure everything's there. And it's so funny because I've had students work on my website, and all of them they come in not thinking like a team. And I'm sure you experience this. They design as an individual. But when I say, okay, now make sure all the font is the same size, then it becomes a different exercise because they don't teach that necessarily in school, to work with a team to ensure quality. Like you said, attention to detail. There's individual attention to detail, and then there's group individual detail.
Very true.
Yeah. Positive. I think you're extremely positive. I would have said this is the first word to describe you. So why do you say that?
I like to look at the glass half full. I like to look at people and opportunities. Again, I don't look at things as being negative. So I and also I will also tell you several of my friends and coworkers have said, "Oh, Shannon, you're the positive bee in the room." Case in point, I think we had to a group of us had to drive to Titusville, and everybody was complaining. First thing I said was, "Hey, at least we don't have to walk. Let's look on the positive side of things."
Yeah.
So, but I believe it is, it takes as much energy to be positive and negative, and so I'd rather be the sunshine in the room and then instead of the cloud.
I like that one. I like that a lot. So let me ask you another question then. Rather be the sunshine. I'm taking notes here because you have some really good zingers here.
Okay.
Yeah. If I like to be positive too, but I also like looking for things that are wrong because it allows to put them back into order. Do you do that?
I'm not sure I would look at it as seeing that they're wrong, but looking at the opportunities,
how they can be done better.
How they can be done better. Because I believe everything can be done better. Everything.
Case in point. See, you just corrected what I was saying. So you made it better instead of being a negative. That was good. Really good. Okay. So your last one is adventurous.
Yes.
Why?
I like to try new things. I like to travel. I like to new experiences, new food. So adventurous.
What kind of new food have you tried?
Oh my, lately, I will tell you, I am a HelloFresh person.
Okay.
And anything that they send, I am game
That's the
to
box,
try it.
right?
That's the box.
Okay.
I love it, love it, love it. So different cultural foods. If what have I tried lately? There is
Do they have ramen?
I think they do.
Not in the package, like real ramen. And I'm going to tell you.
I'm not sure. I'll have to. I'm not sure. So don't hold me to that one. I would have to look at their selections and see if they have the ramen.
So what's the best thing that you had from HelloFresh?
Oh my goodness. That's a tough one because they do an excellent chicken rice bowl. And then there's also this rosemary chicken with an cranberry sauce.
Yum.
That's fabulous. So,
I haven't tried their food, so I've seen a lot of those things out there, and I sit and I think, do I want to do that? Because I really like going to the grocery store. Do you find it more convenient to have it just there and it's ready for you?
I do. When I don't want to tell my age, but when I was younger, going to the grocery store, I enjoyed. Now that I'm a little busier and my mother does live with me, so we decided to do the Hello Fresh, and she does most of our grocery shopping. So now that it is, it's just so convenient. And again, HelloFresh has exposed me to several different new recipes that I myself would have never tried or tried to cook. Couscous, quinoa. I love it. I
super
love
good.
And I would not have even thought about buying those and cooking them if it wasn't for HelloFresh. So for me, HelloFresh is a new experience.
Have you had ramen, like real ramen?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I'm going to propose that I don't know what you're doing after the show, but there is a really good ramen place, really good. Okay. And it's downtown Orlando. Jinya.
Okay. What's it called?
Jinya. It's a chain, actually. It is some of the best. Once I had that real ramen, I went, I will never eat anything out of a container or in a package with those noodles. Never again. Never. Okay. It is so incredibly good. That one is a really, really good one. There's also, I don't know, what's your favorite cuisine that you would?
Mexican.
Do you have a favorite restaurant too? We're going to give shout outs to some of them.
I do. Let's see here. Now, it's interesting because one of my favorite restaurants happens to be Maggiano's.
I don't know where that is.
Oh my goodness. It's in Port Orlando. I used to live in Dallas, and I made a list of all my favorite restaurants to make sure they were here. And Maggiano's was one, thank goodness.
Where are they located?
Point Orlando.
Point Orlando. I don't even know
down there by off International Drive.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a chain. But the ramen place is a chain also. But there's this local mom and pop Italian restaurant that's also right off of Primrose, I think it is.
Okay.
Primrose. And they give you more food than Olive Garden.
Okay.
And it's all, it tastes very homemade.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really good. And I would say that one was pretty good. And then there's been a Brazilian restaurant I tried on iDrive.
Ooh.
Very good. I do reviews, Yelp reviews. Do you do that?
I do not.
They have something because you're adventuresome with food.
Mm-hmm.
You might consider doing Yelp reviews also because they give you some little perks when you do it.
I think about
You don't
that.
get paid, but you get to eat at some places for
That
free.
I'll have to look into as well. But as far as my favorite restaurants, I do love Uncle Julio's, which is also
either.
That one is also off of iDrive. And again, it was one of my favorites when I lived in Dallas. So I was happy when it came.
What kind of food?
It's Mexican.
Wow. Okay. Well, new places for me to try because I like Mexican if there's tamales. If there's tamales, I'm all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Or really good, there's a chunky guacamole. Can you tell I'm hungry?
I can tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, chunky guacamole is better than the smooth one too. So. All right. So we went through these good words, and I think that was significant. Where does your career path start? Was it in college, in high school? You could start wherever. We get about 15 minutes on this one. So, and then how did you become to be a senior administrator?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you my career path started in the 7th grade.
What?
I know. Amazing. Those teachers are so instrumental in our lives. I had an English teacher who told me or encouraged me to try out for the yearbook. Never in a million years would I would have thought about yearbook in middle school. My grandfather was a computer programmer. I was a grandfather's girl. So I always said, I'm going to be like my granddaddy. I'm going to go into computer science. Well, after my English teacher encouraged me to go, Mrs. Thomas, she encouraged me to go into journalism. The yearbook staff. I loved it. I loved the writing. I loved making sure that I saw it as my calling to make sure everyone in our school, the popular, the non-popular, 6th grade, 8th grade, everyone was represented in our yearbook.
I love that.
And so 7th grade, I became the editor.
Okay.
And then 8th grade, 7th grade I was co-editor. 8th grade, I was solo editor. And then going to high school, my 9th grade year, I was the first 9th grader ever allowed on our high school yearbook staff.
Wow.
I know. And that really paved the way or led me to want to become a journalist, to go into magazine publication, newspaper publication. I guess I'm telling my age because I said newspaper publication.
Well, they still have newspapers. Hello, there is the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. So yeah, they're still there.
You're right. So from 7th grade, I knew I wanted to be in the journalism world. But again, as I mentioned, going to high school and I worked my way up to, I was the first junior editor of our yearbook, as well as the first Black editor of my high school yearbook and the first 2-time editor because I was editor my junior and my senior year. So I say all that to say, yes, I went to University of Florida and majored in majored in journalism and communications with a focus on magazine publication. And so I got a chance to work for a couple of newspapers in Gainesville. I worked for, what was the name of the magazine? The Blue magazine? Florida Blue? Can't even remember. Tell how long it was ago.
I went to University of Florida. I should know this one too, but you know what? I don't.
Yeah. So I spent one year working on the magazine at UF, and then after UF, I worked for a small newspaper in Delaware as well as a small newspaper in Indiana.
So what did you do there?
My first job, I was a copy editor.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, most people going into journalism want to be in broadcast or want to be the reporter. Again, I'm precise and I want to make things better. So my dream was to be a copy editor.
Okay, so what is a copy editor? Why do they call it copy editor? It sounds like all you're doing is copying.
Well, you take the copy, and the copy is the written word produced by the reporter, and we edit it. We improve it. We write the headlines. We at that time we did the page design for the newspaper. And so we are the behind the scenes, I would say the wonder maker, because we make everything flow and, look good.
I'm now seeing the reason why you picked all of those words: precise. You said detail, and let me go back and look at these really quick here, because you said creative. Yes, that's checking that box. Precise, positive. Yes, I can see all of these words in this career path that you have taken. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, so I wanted to be a copy editor. And also at that time, there were more people who wanted to be a reporter and not as many who wanted to be copy editors. We were in great demand. We were. So, graduating from UF in May, I already had a job lined up in February. So as I mentioned, I went to Delaware. I only spent 6 months there and went on to small newspaper, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and spent a year and 8 months there. First time I ever seen snow.
Wow.
Is when I lived in Indiana. And then after that, after the worst winter they ever had in 7 years, I said, okay, this Florida girl needs to get back to South. So then I accepted a job at Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
Spent 2 wonderful years there. Food was wonderful. And about that time, however, things were changing. The internet was coming on board, but unfortunately, no one knew exactly what to do with the internet.
Kind of like AI.
Yeah, yes. And there were not many copy editors and page designers. So I was working 7 days a week, 6 days a week, very, very long hours, putting on a lot of weight. And I just started to think, is this really what I want my life to be like? And so at 25, I decided to leave newspapers and got into corporate communications and moved to Dallas and worked for JCPenney's corporate headquarters.
Okay, that's a big jump, really big jump. Gosh, okay, this sounds very exciting. So now you go from retail industry to?
Well, I spent 14 wonderful years, about 13 years and maybe 8 months or so with JCPenney's. I worked with a corporate communications, worked with their advertising department, catalog advertising department. And so enjoyed the first, I would say, 11 years. The last 3 years were very difficult. We got a new CEO, and every 6 months or so, we would have a round of layoffs. I made it for 3 years, but I kept seeing my friends leave, and our department shrunk.
Yeah.
But the work didn't really shrink.
Right.
So it was.
Was it going more? Why do you think that was happening at that time?
Well, our new
because of buying things online, or?
Well, I don't think that was really it. It was just a different mindset for our new CEO. He thought we could do more with less. And however, I would just say that pennies went from maybe a stock price of, $75, $80 to $7.
Wow.
Yes. It was
was Sears going under before? I mean, Penny's is still around, and Sears went down.
It did, but Penny's got rid of that CEO.
Okay, good for them.
Started to improve, but it was an eye opener for me.
Yeah.
It taught me a lot of lessons. My time. My end time, I should say, there, because while I was at JCPenney's, I did get my master's from Baylor University.
That's a good school.
Thank you. Executive program. I learned a lot. It was amazing being in the classroom with, division heads and, company vice presidents. It was really, really an eye opener for me, coming from the journalism creative side, and really to see what it takes to build a business, to make a business successful. The P&L reports, get that, being on the creative side.
No.
So that experience was truly phenomenal for me. It was an eye opener, and it also encouraged me to, was one of the things that encouraged me to start a graphic design business. I can't take all the credit, because for my sorority, I would design our fundraiser booklets, program booklets. We would have debutantes and I would do their booklets. And one day a sorority member came up to me and said, I want you to design my wedding invitations.
Nice.
And I said, I don't do that. She says, if you can do this, pointing to the debutante book, she says, you can do my wedding invitations. And she would not take no for an answer.
No, she had the reason. She already anticipated you saying no. She said, well, if you can do this, of course you can. I'm curious,
Yes.
what was your sorority?
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Okay, I was in a Greek system also. Yeah.
So that experience from doing her wedding, which was one of the talk of the town in Dallas at the time, I did everything related to paper. So, she had a brochure, she had napkins, you name it, I did it for her. She had posters and word of mouth. Oh, I want you to do my wedding, Shannon. Oh, I'm having a baby shower. And that's how my graphic design business started. And then I worked for an Eclipse magazine and a couple of other smaller local magazines at the time, consistently working with JCPenney. So those are always side gigs for me. And but yeah, so when it was time for my layoff, because we were all sitting around just waiting for it to happen, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So again, one lesson that taught me, I was there for 3 years watching all these layoffs. I should have had a plan in place.
Yeah.
So that taught me to have plan B, plan C, plan D ready. But it also let me know that my grandfather taught me, when you start working, Shannon, he says, make sure you invest in your 401k, invest in yourself. So I got a financial planner at the age of 22, and I was single with no children. And when my layoff came,
wait, all of this took place before you were 20? No. Okay.
No. Yes, I worked.
Wow.
I worked at Penny's for 14 years. So of course, it's that pre-planning. So my first job in Delaware, I was already, investing, saving and investing. Yes. And so when I was laid off, I talked to my financial planner and he told me, he said, Shannon, you're in a good financial position. If you would like to not work for the next, 3 to 4 years.
Whoa.
Yes.
That was a lot of money you were piling away.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, I made a pretty good penny at JCPenney.
No pun intended.
It was, and that's one, I also say that was another lesson, because I did not want to leave that job because of the amount of money I was making. At that time, while I say I was adventurous, I was still too scared to step out. And so many times I had a pastor tell me that God, you may not be ready to go, but God will push you. And God will make it tight where you are so you can get where you ought to be. And we had that squeeze at Penny's, and being let go, it was a little devastating, but also it was a little freeing as well.
Yeah.
And again, I look at all my past blessings because my grandfather told me, you invest. So I had the financial means that I didn't have to work. I didn't have to take just any job. But also, our layoff package was phenomenal. I got laid off in April. I still got a paycheck till December.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. I guess that might happen with some companies, but that's rare.
Yes. So that gave me some time to continue to work on my business and try and figure out exactly what I wanted to do. And during that, I did apply for several positions within the Dallas-Fort Worth area because I thought that's where I wanted to stay. But more and more, I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay within corporate America. And then my mother and my aunt and I, we took a trip and we went to New York. And my mother, and I told her one of my past dreams is I wanted to teach. Because I always felt like I had something to give back, and I always wanted to give back to students. I got into journalism to give underrepresented people. At that time, they weren't called represented people. It was just people who look and sound like me, didn't have a voice. Whether it was African American, where because I went to a school that was predominantly white, in several of my classes, I was the only Black kid in the class. And
did you have a scholarship
to UF?
Yeah.
I did, and that's a story in itself too.
I kind of figured you did, just because I'm going, listen, this is a woman who's really driven. I'm pretty sure she had a scholarship.
Yes.
And I don't think it was just one. I think it was like, I'm going, she was in a sorority.
Yes.
I was in a sorority. They're not cheap. So she had a ride there.
I was very blessed in that my entire undergrad was paid for by scholarships, as it was. Yes, it was. But I forgot what we were talking about.
Okay, so you got into journalism to give underrepresented people like yourself.
Yes, a voice.
Yeah.
To be recognized, give them the voice. And so what better way to help people find their own voice but in education? And so I told my mother, I said, oh, I want to teach college one day, but not now. And I said, I'll do that later in life. And my mother looked at me and she says, Shannon, this is your later in life. Because at that time I was 38, 39 years old.
Yeah.
So she says,
oh, wake up call.
Yes. She says, you've been working for 20 some odd years. She says, give it a try. So I decided on a whim, kid you not, to sell my house in Dallas, because I asked God, what is it that's going to make me just take any job? And it was my mortgage. And again, one of my grad school professors would tell us, during my MBA time, he would tell us, you got to take your emotions out of your financial decisions. And if I didn't walk away with anything else out of grad school, that was probably one of the most profound things ever. And so I had to take the emotion out. And so I put my house on the market. I figured it would sell in 6 months. It sold in 4 days. So I had to make some quick decisions. What am I going to do? And so what do they say? You can always go back home. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to go home again. And of course, coming home to Florida was only supposed to be a pit stop. It was only supposed to be for 4 years. And I'll also tell you that since I was in the 7th grade, I was a planner. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. During that layoff time, I said, okay, God, I have planned absolutely everything, and it has not come right as I thought it would be. I said, so I'm going to let go of the reins, and I'm going to let you do me. I'm going to let you do. Yeah. Because I've been trying to control so many things. And so I was with my mother, who was an interior design teacher in high school. And we bumped into her principal. And her principal happened to be my assistant principal when I was in high school. Okay. And so when I was in high school, I was also class president all 4 years. And no surprise. So Mr. Lundquist and I would do the morning announcements together. So he says, Latimer, what are you doing? So I told him that I was have my graphic design business, but I was in between jobs. He says, you need to be a substitute teacher for me. I was like, oh no. But sometimes you have to say, why not? Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. After a couple of weeks, I said, why not? So he had, again, good people in your life, made sure that I became a substitute teacher. I did that for 3 months, and then a English teacher went out.
What school was it?
It was at Oviedo High School.
That's a good school too.
Yes. And an English teacher went out on maternity leave, and Mr. Lundquist, which was, I find out now that was his plan all along, was to have me take over that class. And I apparently did a good job. And so when Winter Springs High School was starting a new program, hospitality and tourism, Mr. Lundquist recommended me for the position. And so I got the position to teach hospitality and tourism. I was the only hospitality and tourism teacher in Seminole County. And that's how I got into education.
That is a very cool story. I was an English teacher. I think I told you that too.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So it's probably why I like you so much. Yeah. I don't think I was very good in art, but I would every single one of my electives was art. So I sit here and I go, as you've been talking and just sharing so much about your story, I went, wow, no wonder I really like her. We have so much in common.
We do.
I
Yep.
think that you were really brave to do it. Are you an only child?
I am not. Now I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
So you've been the one that's been leading the way for the other kids then.
Yes. Yep.
Very
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
So now, how'd you get to the county?
Oh, that's a good story. Well, as a first year teacher and teaching hospitality and tourism, and being the only hospitality and tourism teacher in Seminole County, I had a wonderful, wonderful district liaison. Her name was Colleen Brown, and she suggested, you know what, you got to know, you know your strengths and you know your faults, right? She said, Shannon, I don't know anything about hospitality and tourism because we have not had that program, but I know who does. So she connected me with some wonderful people at OCPS, because OCPS has had the program for a number of years. So they welcomed me in, and we would have teacher professional development with the Orange County teachers. And so Orange County was impressed with what I was doing in the classroom in Seminole County. And my mentor, Pat Breeding, her boss, she was the Orange County district liaison for hospitality, or at that time, the program director. And her boss, the director of career and technical education, OCPS, asked her, when she retired, who would she like to replace her? And I was one of the names that she recommended. So she had me come and meet her boss, and he was like, I like her.
Mm-hmm.
So when the opportunity presented itself, they offered me a position to come work with them in Orange County.
So I remember when you came over to Starter Studios office,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I first met you.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly can't remember who you were with, but I'm sure you do because you've mentioned first and last names of every single buddy in your life.
Oh, but I believe I was with Lane Powell. I think I was with Texas Girls, Dr. Lane Powell. Yes. She is a sorority sister of mine.
But wait,
And
it was somebody else that spoke that taught at the county level. She wasn't there.
it must have been Pat Breeding then.
It had to have been.
It had to have been Pat.
That name
then.
doesn't sound familiar to me either. Yeah, but I'm going to go with I know Lane Powell. I know Dr. Powell. Yeah.
So that was
wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got into education. And then again, that's how I got into the district at Orange County Public Schools to help our career technical education instructors build their programs, connecting them with business partners, because that was one of the things that I did in Seminole County. I told the students from day one, I'm not an instructor. I was not trained to be a teacher, but I know how to manage people.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I told them I'm going to look at them as my trainees, and I was going to be their CEO, their chief education officer. So we worked together to create their educational experiences. And we went on industry site visits, because I refused to call them field trips.
Yep.
We did industry site visits. We had guest speakers. We worked on projects. We volunteered with the theater group, and the students became the greeters, and they passed out, things. We worked with the football team to plan their football banquet. So we tried to incorporate business customer service concepts and ideas with the students. Mm-hmm. And then my second year, I became the yearbook advisor. And I will tell you,
you love that.
I did.
It came full circle for you.
Yes, I did. And I will tell you, if I could have my last job in education, I would love to be a yearbook advisor.
You mean again?
I would.
You would leave this position where you have so much authority and you can change lives like this?
Maybe it's one of my last jobs. I'm easing out the door, because the plan is to have someone come behind me and continue the job that I'm doing with OCPS and career and technical education. Because you're right, I do love my current job.
Yeah.
It gives me the opportunity to expose students to careers and opportunities that they would have never thought of. Also, it allows me to see students do things they never thought they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Several times when we've had our pitch competitions and when we've had our culinary competitions, and these students are making masterpieces in front of, professionals, and they are in awe, like, oh my goodness, I did this. Oh my goodness, I got a third place, or
Yeah.
just being able to accomplish it and see the joy and the sense of accomplishment is amazing. It really is,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I've had those moments too. I taught 7th, 9th, and 10th grade English, and they're going to the graduation, and I would be able, English teachers had all of this authority where we were the only ones that could say, okay, we're going to let you skip an ability level. You could go from being at risk to to standard to honors. Like, we were the ones that signed off.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one kid, I know you'll appreciate this story. First gen from India had been put in the basic classes because they didn't know English as well, even though they were in ESOL. Asked if they could move up to the standard classes. And I went, okay, so you got to get through this semester and you're going to have to make sure that you make an A no less than a B. If you do that, then yes, I'll sign off and I'll switch you over this semester so you could go to the next ability level. He worked so hard, so incredibly hard. He got to move. And then apparently he understood how to use the system. He asked his standard teacher if he could do that and move to honors, and he did. And so I had him in 10th grade, and in 11th grade, he was over in honors. And I did not know this. And I did not see him until graduation. And he came to find me and he said, I just want you to know, because you did this, I am the first generation graduating with honors from an American school and all of this, and because you believed in me. And I have a lot of those stories. I'm sure you do too. And we know we have so much power and we can change one person's life in a big way.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Teachers do.
Yes, you do. You not only gave him a chance, but you also taught him the value of advocating for himself.
Yep. And negotiating.
And that is
everything.
key.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Advocating for himself. You're absolutely right. Okay. So what would a perfect life look like for you?
Ooh. Well, I would say to have the time and the money to explore my passions and my strengths, as well as I'm a huge sports fan.
Okay.
So one of the things I would love.
What kind of sports?
I love football.
Okay.
Basketball, track and field. I'm getting into volleyball now. My niece plays volleyball.
Okay.
So yes, I told students I want to be a professional fan.
Okay. All right. All right. So, those tickets to going to the Orlando Magic are expensive.
I know, now that they start winning, but that's the importance again of investing.
Yes, it is, because now you can go and buy those tickets and be able to go, I can sit in a box if I want to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah.
I don't know. You might go back to them and go and negotiate, because, they might need some graphic design or some of the services that you provide. And you could come in and say, I'm going to be your biggest fan. Let me tell you what I think you should do.
That's
blah, blah,
right.
blah. And it will only cost you a season of tickets.
You know what? I love that idea. I can edit and make sure their program booklets are, error free.
Yes, I'm sure you can. All right. Well, I think that sounds like a lot of fun. What is your favorite book that you believe everyone should read and will help them to be better?
I'd say To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay, that's like a really kind of a dark book, but why?
I'd have to say because To Kill a Mockingbird makes people confront, for one thing, their prejudice. It makes them deal with their moral compass. It also hopefully encourages empathy, makes you think about your fellow man, helping you to see someone who's not like you, but to see them as you are,
Yeah, I think it's a big deal for people to be seen and heard, because our world is fast. Those reels, everything on social media, it's like seconds. We only read headlines. We don't read, we don't do stuff. And we don't slow down. So making sure somebody feels seen and heard is a really big gift.
And valued.
Yeah.
No matter what station of life you are valued. And I think To Kill a Mockingbird does that. Also, I am a big history buff, and I do believe if you do not pay attention to the past, if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. So it's a good history lesson on how were people thought of and dealt with in the quote unquote system and justice system. So it leads, I hope, by reading the book will lead to personal growth and enhance critical thinking on people. So that's how I really think To Kill a Mockingbird can help make people better.
Yeah. This is a really good moment where we're going to take a pause. We're going to acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and we're going to be right back.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
And now we're back to the second half of our show with Shannon Latimer. And this has been just a really fun conversation. And I don't know about you, but I just learned so much by your insight that you shared about To Kill a Mockingbird. And I love the fact I've been taking copious notes of everything you're saying. I know you're like, you're watching me do it, I'm sure. But I like this one part. I'm going to quote you that it makes people confront their prejudice and moral compass and encourages empathy. And so you think about your fellow man to be seen, heard, and valued. I really like that a lot. I'm going to use that as like part of the show description and how, it's going to be part of the headline, just so you know, it's good. So now we're looking at the future in this part of the show. So what do you think 2030 is going to look like in the world, in the education industry, or it can be in design, it can be in anything you want because you've worked in several industries, and jobs in 2030? What do you think it's going to be like? It's an opinion question, so nobody's holding you to it.
Oh, thank goodness. Because to be honest, I do not know.
Yeah, none of us know. So we can all say something.
I will say, I think in education, I'm hoping to see work-based opportunities, more enhanced work-based learning opportunities, a better connection between the core classes and your career-related courses. More and more students, kids today, it just blows my mind. You can start taking college courses in middle school. You can start taking high school courses in middle school. So we have juniors and seniors. You have sophomores who are almost have all their credits. So what are we doing with these students? They have then an opportunity to take courses from, some online, now Zoom courses with people in another state, in another country.
Now, how does a middle schooler qualify? Because, I mean, to take courses, are they doing it as an audit? Because they can't take it for school credit yet.
Yes, you can.
How so?
UCF, and I believe Valencia as well, allows as young as 6th grade to take a dual enrollment course.
So how do they qualify for that? Do you know?
They still have to pass the PERT exam.
Okay.
And if you are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you will have to have a parent go with you to the campus. So yes, that's not several students, but still, it is a few. But most of our middle school students, well, I'll say most, you have a lot of middle school students who are taking high school credit courses. So a student can start as early as, in the 7th grade, in
Sixth.
9th grade.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Well, no, you can start in 6th grade.
To take college classes or high school classes?
In the 6th grade, you can take a dual enrollment college course.
Wow.
In the 8th grade, in Orange County Public Schools and in several of our surrounding districts, we have several high school credit courses, especially those electives. So we do have in Project Lead the Way, Introduction to Engineering, We have agri-science. Those are more prevalent ones. Digital information technology. Those
What
are
about DECA?
DECA. Now that is a student organization. So it is considered a career and technical student organization. So yes, it is a club. And yes, that also helps students enhance, improve their employability skills. Very valuable organization. DECA is mainly for our high school students, and FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, a student in middle school can participate within those organizations, as well as FFA. And again, students are getting valuable skills, critical thinking, presentation, being able to work within a team.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Collaboration, so communication.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. I know I had Laura Dowd on my show also. Yeah, and I met Laura a year ago when I was participating in the program that Orange County Public Schools has through the DECA program at Dr. Phillips High School. And it was high school kids that I got to work with. And this is my second year of working with them. And I really enjoyed working with Laura because she was taking a lot of my feedback and taking it back into the classroom to enhance the student experience. So students were now earning some certifications in industry apps that people use, like HubSpot and Canva and any of the other things that are out there. Just about every company that has an app has some kind of an educational component to it with measurable certifications that have street value.
Yeah.
So I love that this is so progressive, and I'm sitting here going, you know what? I think when I want to retire, I think I want to go back and I want to follow you, but I may go back. Maybe I'll teach in the classroom, but maybe I can go work in the county office or do something like
that. You could. We needed it both, and I'm glad you mentioned or working with Laura Dow, because that is, and having that business and education partnership, that's so needed.
Yep.
And that's what I believe we were going to see more of that in 2030. We're going to see more of those businesses coming up with, projects and ideas that they can give to a high school student. And maybe it's just a what if case scenario and having students develop ideas. But we need more businesses involved within our high schools so that students can be better prepared for, their business, for future jobs. And also, I can't remember, and I believe you may have shared the statistic with us, is that students today, we're preparing them for jobs that don't even exist.
Yep, I did. That was in the presentation. Yep. Yep.
And
okay, so let's go and talk about positive impact. What do you think the positive impact is of robots, AR, which is augmented reality, listeners, VR, virtual reality, or generative AI have on the future of work? Because they all have an impact. And I'm pretty sure you know that there is a robot program, FIRST, FIRST.
First Robotics.
Yes. Yeah. And it's Wendy, who's also been on my podcast. Yeah, I love Wendy. So they bring a different set of opportunity and competency skill development, and it's K through college, honestly, with FIRST. So what do you think? Which one do you want to pick? AR, VR, robots, Gen AI? What do you want?
Oh my goodness. Well, I believe robots, AI is definitely going to help us be more productive, more efficient. As long as we use it correctly. I love AI because instead of spending an hour and a half just making sure every word is correct and precise, and even with that right email, going to whoever, teacher or assistant or a principal, I'm saving that time. I can just put into,
The prompt.
AI, the prompt. This is what I wanted to say. Boom. It generates. And then I can add to it or personalize it. My copy editor hat comes back
Right.
on. But it's such a time saver. And then I can spend more of my time being creative, being innovative, making connections and relationships that are going to benefit our students. So I definitely see, AI and I mentioned robots being, those things that can help us be more productive. And of course, in virtual reality, I think that helps. And again, am putting it within the education realm, helps us with training, help us with education. We may not be able to take a student on, on a field trip, on an industry visit, but in the classroom, you're impacting, more than 200 kids throughout the day, because each class will have roughly, 30 students, and then you have, 6 to 7 periods. You're able to teach and bring, something, real, to the students. And so being able to train and educate, virtual reality definitely lends itself there. And then, of course, being creative and entertainment. Virtual reality helps.
I know I didn't discuss this one with you, but this is one of my concerns. And we're going to jump over to the ethical dilemmas side, because Jeffrey Hinton shared in an interview in 60 Minutes. He said he's also called the godfather of AI. He created this way back. There were all a bunch of these white professors that were all working in the Ivy League schools back in the 50s. And he created AI back then in the 50s. And he said one of the ways in which these systems might escape control is by writing their own computer code to modify themselves. And he said that's something we need to seriously worry about. I think that's very insightful of somebody who created something to sit here and go, what did we do? What did I do? And be open about that type of like responsibility that he didn't have the insight to think about at the age he was when he created it. So I sit here and I think about, just because we can do things doesn't mean we should, because not everybody, you and I, we're in education. We both know that not every student is going to be a programmer. Not every, because there's mental, there's physical, there's emotional things that happen that become part of that student's life that will prohibit them from doing it. They may not be smart enough. They may not be emotionally prepared. They could have, some type of a learning disability. So where do those people fit into the equation of what is a very cerebral job opportunities that are being created, and they're not going to be there? Personally, I like going into every once in a while, McDonald's, and having that person that greets me. It's a person. It's not me ordering at a kiosk and whatever. I like being greeted, because those jobs allow people to obtain the soft skills, power skills that we use. Same applies for the person at Walmart. Any of these jobs, not everybody is going to be those jobs. And we're going to be getting rid of those jobs. And I'm trying to imagine, what is the job that they could do? That concerns me. That's the ethics side of it.
And you bring up a very good point. And unfortunately, I don't have that answer. Sometimes I do think that we are humans and we need human connections.
We do.
And there are unfortunately very few companies who are resisting it. So, and there are some people, because I refuse to use a self-checkout.
I don't either. I like to keep somebody employed.
Yes. And I want to say good afternoon. Hello, how are you? And so the more, but I don't know how many of us there are that are resisting that. You're right. I don't know.
You know what? This is what I was talking with somebody, and I think it was in Publix. And I go out the checkout and I said, I do this. And I said, why is it that, and Target too has begun to do this too. They have noticed that more people want to meet a human rather than do the self checkout. So they've started putting more people back in there. And they told me this at Target, and they told me this at Publix also, that they've seen that there's more customers that want it. And they said it was because I was going, is it a specific generation? What is that? And they said,
Mhm.
no, it's actually all, because there's research that shows that Gen Z
Mhm.
actually is more aligned with baby boomers with how they want to create relationship with people. So now you've seen this Gen Y, you've seen
Mhm.
millennial, you've seen, all of these other generations go through some awakening and
Mhm.
say, yes, they were born with the phone in their hand. Yes, they've been born with all of these things that makes it easier, but they don't know how to write cursive. They don't know how to do things for
Yes.
themselves because they can pick up a phone and do it. And they're beginning to realize the importance of dealing with a human.
Mhm.
I think that's refreshing.
Mhm. It is very refreshing.
Yeah.
It is. And I mean, it's so happy to see, because yes, I love technology, love AI, but of course, you start watching these sci-fi
Yep.
shows.
Yeah. Oh, they're
And then
great predictors.
yes, and then you start seeing, okay, what are these robots, these beings
Mm-hmm.
thinking for themselves? How are we going to treat them?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to treat them as equals? Are we going to treat them as slaves?
Mm-hmm.
And you would hope that we would be so open-minded, but you don't know. You don't know the evil that could be sitting right in the
Right
back.
there.
You don't know. So it brings up so many. What type of abuse? Of course, you think of Westworld and the abuse that happens to the robots.
Right.
It's yeah. So but you look at I don't know. I don't know.
So I want you to go and watch Black Mirror. It's on Netflix. There's 5 seasons. They only put 5 episodes out each season, but they're a lot. And they're really, when I say they're dark, they raise that ethical question as like, just because we can, should we? Can we take the consciousness of you that became some kind of, you're paralyzed and you're in coma, and we take who you are and we put you, this is what happened in an episode, put you inside of a teddy bear, and the teddy bear is the one that can talk to just you, who you were married to that person.
Oh my.
And it's just becomes this whole thing like, can that happen? I'm sure this has already happened. I just don't think it's become mainstream knowledge is the thing. So I think that there's a lot of cautionary tales and also predictors of how people are wanting to shape the world we live in. I think that's what science fiction is. It's like, what do we want the world to be like?
That's right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right.
So, well, interesting conversation. You have anything that you want to add on to that side of ethics?
I just know we have a lot to critical thinking and a lot of soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of soul searching that we must do before. Well, so we had to move quick because technology and
Like you blink your
advances are
eye, right?
happening quickly.
And you open your phone and you go, well, what just happened? Because honestly, in my iPhone, I don't want to download whatever the latest versions are because I go, I don't know what that's going to do. So, and you have to agree to the terms if you want to have a phone, period. And if you don't, then you have no phone. And how are you going to call people? Because we don't have landlines that much anymore.
We don't.
So there comes this place where they let you say no, but then you don't have anything. You will not be able to communicate with people on social channels or through a phone, which is not a phone. It is a tracker.
Yeah, that's true.
It tracks you on everything you do. And then you will not be able to communicate with people if you don't have an email account, right? If you have no phone, you have no social channels, how are you going to communicate with people?
Yeah.
And then we have things that are radio and TV. And thank goodness we can still hear radio through like our car, things of that that nature. But with anything that people don't need TVs anymore, you can watch it on your phone. It's not a
Anybody
phone.
put that- Yes,
It's a tracker.
you call it a tracker. I
Yeah.
just call it my, sell my device.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, well, the best mentoring advice that you would like to share with our listeners. And I told you this would go fast, and you were going an hour. It kind of blows really
You're
fast.
right. Oh my, I can't believe we're
Yeah.
coming up on an hour. But the best advice I would like to leave with listeners is to be a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
Always, always, always continue to learn. Be flexible and adaptable.
Yes, I would agree with that.
You never know what's going to happen. You don't know what opportunities, what options. So be flexible and welcome the change.
Yeah.
Welcome changes.
Yeah, you have choices, but you can either go with it and control what's within your power,
Mhm.
right? Or not. So how can
Mhm.
listeners find you? I usually supply your LinkedIn, but do you have any other social channels that you want people to reach out to you? Or, I mean, I know I can find your email because you're a public servant.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Email is the best way of reaching out to me, as well as LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn account. So yes, they could definitely share that way. I must admit, I don't do a lot of social media.
Most people in education don't.
That's interesting. What I
Yeah.
do post, I try and post about our students and events and things, their successes, and so yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, listeners, if you have listened and you reach out to Shannon, be sure to mention the Intern Whisper so she knows how you got there. Well, I want to tell you so much. Thank you for being a guest on the show. This
pleasure.
was enlightening. It was
Good.
really good. And I have totally enjoyed this so very, very much. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I had a wonderful time. It was definitely a positive experience that I'm happy that I jumped at.
Oh, I am so glad to. We want to thank our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and thank you to our video production and editing team, Erica Ullman, Gavin Staley. Music is by Sophie Lloyd. The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Employers for Change, helping hiring teams to recruit and upskill their intern talent and employees. Learn more at www.e4c.tech and become a member to reduce employer bias and improve company culture through head and heart smart recruiting and learning. Subscribe to The Intern Whisperer today and show your support by sharing our show, tagging a friend, and leaving us comments. You can find the Intern Whisperer podcast on Employers for Change YouTube channel or streaming from your favorite podcast channel. Thank you so much.